computer. Good morning, everyone. I wanted to take a moment to introduce my guest today, Beth Shaw, and let you know a little bit about her background. Beth Shaw is the author of 4 best-selling books on health and wellness, a pioneer in the wellness, yoga, and fitness space in North America. Beth is also the CEO and founder of YogaFit Training Systems Worldwide, Inc., and the Global Mind Body Education School and YogaFit. Beth is a go-to yoga mindfulness expert in the media and has been featured in numerous fitness, business, and consumer publications. Beth is a frequent speaker at universities, conferences, and Fortune 500 corporations. Beth educates others on health and mindfulness in the workplace and conscious business. So without any further explanation, I will let her share her story. And I want to just welcome you, Beth, to our podcast, and thank you for your time. And I look forward to learning more about you.
Thank you very much for having me. It's great to do a podcast on OCD because I've been diagnosed with it. I also have ADHD, and the two of them I find challenging to manage because they kind of work against one another. Typically people with ADHD are doing 10 different projects at once. They have literally different piles of projects and piles of stuff around. And then when you have OCD and you need everything to be organized in order to function, I think life becomes more challenging. That being said, I've been running the largest yoga mind body school in the world, YogaFit Training Systems, for over 25 years, and I've managed to focus enough to get 4 books done. And I also host a radio show weekly that lives anywhere podcasts live, and it's called Make America Healthy.
Okay. Nice. I just want to take a note of that. Now, how did you get started on this journey?
Well, I taught myself how to do guided imagery when I was 6 because I suffered from horrible migraine headaches as a child. And I grew up in a family where, let's just say everybody was kind of checked out. So I would get these horrible migraine headaches. I taught myself how to do guided imagery meditation. I started doing yoga as a child. I've been working out in gyms since the age of 15 and have been very passionate about psychology, nutrition, and everything health and wellness since I've been in high school.
And what makes you different and about sharing the importance of it? Sounds like you are really connected to the mind-body experience. And how did you, what makes your programs or your philosophy different than many out there? Because there's many people that describe themselves as yoga, fitness, and wellness leaders. What is it about you that separates you from others?
Well, YogaFit has been a school for over 25 years. So we've got a proven track record of success. And we really approach physical and mental health as one and the same. I've been very open about my challenges with depression and mood disorders with our network and our constituents. I've written a book called Healing Trauma with Yoga, where we use yoga and other mind-body tools to help mitigate the symptoms, the daily symptoms of trauma and PTSD. So again, we're very enmeshed in the body-mind connection. And YogaFit is fortunate to have 60 master trainers who disseminate our educational information, lead our trainings and conferences, many of whom are smarter than I am in their field of expertise. We have trainers that are doctors, psychologists, nutritionists, physical therapists, military personnel. And so we really run the gamut in terms of educational offerings and a deep desire to make a big difference on the planet, to educate people how to take care of their health physically and mentally, and, to make each day a good one.
Yeah, make each day count, right?
Yeah.
And when you talk about trauma, I often think about when I'm working with my clients as well. As a psych nurse for 28 years, I've seen a lot of trauma over the years, and trauma does, they say, as the saying goes, trauma hides. When we have a physical ailment, such as a broken arm or a broken leg, it's visible to the human eye. And when people see that, they often can reach out and ask, how can I be of help? But when the trauma is up in our mental mindset, a lot of times people aren't aware of it. So people can spend years and decades living with trauma and not ever reaching out to get the appropriate help.
Yeah,
So,
I
mhm.
can definitely relate to that.
Right. So, when you talk about, can I ask you a little bit more about the OCD and depression, the techniques that you're using, in what way are they helping with your depression and OCD?
Well, I find that working out daily is very helpful for me because that's part of my OCD. If I don't have a workout, I'm going to be obsessing about
Mm,
it all day long.
mhm,
I was listening to a podcast recently about, when people with OCD work out, it's actually kind of like the perfect thing for them to do because they're reps and they're sets and
mm,
it's very structured. So I find that helpful. I
mhm,
also meditate on a daily basis. I do TM or I do guided meditation. I use technology like the brain tap to put my brain in different
mhm,
states. So, I think that's so important for people to have as many tools in their tool basket as possible so they can reach for the tool that's going to be
mhm,
appropriate for them that day. I use yoga and fitness to manage my mood and tackle my OCD and depression. But I will say there have been times in my life where I was completely physically exhausted. I can remember the summer of 2019, I had been touring Asia doing fitness conferences.
mhm,
And after being in Singapore and Shanghai, I landed in Tokyo and I'd been teaching, working out every day. And I was having a text message exchange with my ex that was very heated, and I got super depressed. And I was by
mhm,
myself in Tokyo, wandering around the streets. And I was just wondering, like, if I collapse in the streets here, what's going to
mhm,
happen to me? And so my usual coping mechanism of working out wasn't available to me because I was so physically exhausted. So I just went back to my hotel room and I thought, you know what? I'm going to dive into that deep black hole that I'm feeling within me and see what's in there. And I literally saw myself like going in, and I'm sure your listeners who feel that heavy dark place within them can relate. I saw myself going into that dark hole, scrubbing the walls, filling that hole up with a beautiful pink cotton candy type substance, and
mhm,
then sealing it off with like orange wax. And somehow in that process of that, and I put that meditation in my book, Healing Trauma with Yoga, I call it the pink bubble
mhm,
meditation. I'm fortunate during times of stress and duress in my life that these meditations, and like when I was 6, these guided images come to me. Um, so again, it is so important for everyone to have different tools in
mhm.
their tool basket because what works one day may not be applicable the next, as was my experience in Tokyo.
Yes, and very true. The toolkit is so important, and I find that people need to practice different techniques and practice it regularly. When I was working through my OCD, I had to practice every morning different forms of coping strategies so that I could use them when I was out in the real world, and I started to get anxious. If I was trying to use those techniques in the heat of it, they didn't work. So I appreciate what you're saying there for sure. And the next question I have, what do you find is a challenge or a problem when it comes to helping your clients be able to go to that mindset? Because it really does take time to calm the brain when when we're thinking about so many thoughts repetitively over and over, what are some of the very initial techniques that you may offer someone to get them started on that path?
Typically breathing exercises work really well. Um, counting the breath again works so well for people who have OCD.
Mhm.
And also making your exhalations twice as long as your inhalations, which will put you into your parasympathetic nervous system
Mhm.
and get you out of fight or flight. So breathing exercises are super helpful.
Mhm. What about the meditation piece?
Yeah, with meditation is so great, and I encourage everyone to try different styles of meditation to see what works for them.
Mhm.
Whether it's, having a set of mala beads and counting every bead to
Mhm.
108, or whether it's watching a candle flicker. I like guided meditations because you don't have to really do
Mhm.
that much. Mantra-based meditations also, I believe, are very good with anyone who has OCD because it gives you a mental focal point. Um, so those are some of my coping strategies.
Okay, when you say mantra, can you just explain that a little bit further?
Yeah, it's a word or a phrase that may have meaning to you. It could be something as simple as let go,
Mhm.
or it could be a Sanskrit term or something that you just, can repeat to yourself over and over. It might be an I am statement.
Yes, because the I am is so important. We have so much negative beliefs, and often with OCD, it's black or white. There's no gray in the middle. That it's either from one extreme to the other. So training our minds to pivot and be able to train the brain to think more positive about ourselves, especially that takes a long time, especially when you don't have the supports in place necessary to help you overcome that. So all of these techniques are really helpful. Is there other techniques in the way of grounding, techniques that you use as well?
Yeah, I think, going out in nature, putting your feet in the grass, connecting with the earth is super helpful. Taking showers with different temperatures
Mhm.
also is a way to reset the nervous system.
Nice.
I do a lot of inversions with red light therapy. I have a red light and I have I call it a headstand machine. It's not really a machine, but it's an apparatus that allows you to be upside down for long periods of time without putting extra pressure on your neck or head. Those are some of my kind of biohacks that I personally use.
Mhm. Nice. And so how are things today for you? Do you feel that your depression has lifted a lot? Do you feel that your OCD is still present? How are things in those realms?
Well, I think, in my experience, OCD never really goes away.
Mhm.
I can look around my apartment right now and be like, everything's out of order and
Mhm.
I can't function until everything's in order.
Mhm.
So I try to use a lot of positive self-talk, just in terms of the OCD, and then give myself, I put this in my book, Yoga Lean, also. Um, it's a lifestyle book, and there's a whole chapter on clearing space. And I mentioned in that book that, for people who are suffering with OCD, I found it helpful to give myself like, okay, I'm going to do my organizing from 4 to 5. I'm going to give myself this time
Mhm.
to organize, and what I get done, I get done, and what I don't, I don't. So putting a little bit of structure around things, because for me, OCD is just kind of like this uh, big moving cloud that you can never really wrap your arms
Mhm.
around fully. So I find that adding some structure to that is super helpful.
Nice. Yes. And then giving yourself permission the rest of the day not to focus on that, not to worry about it. Does that help, or do you still have those thoughts?
Because there'll be times when I'm like, I just need to ignore my external surroundings and get done what I need to get done. I find in particular when I'm writing a book, I don't write well in my own space because I'm too distracted by my stuff.
Mhm.
So I find to go somewhere that is not my home is helpful when it comes to focused projects.
Nice. Okay. And my last question to you is, what are you working on currently?
I'm working on anti-aging and yoga book right now. That will give tools and strategies for maintaining youthful feeling, looking good, feeling good, being flexible, physically as well as mentally.
Nice. And where can people reach out to you if they want to learn more about the different techniques or just get a hold of one of your books?
They can go to bethshaw.com. They
Okay.
can find me on Instagram at Beth Shaw Health. And they can also go to yogafit.com if they're interested in any of our 150 different educational sessions and yoga trainings.
Wow, sounds great. Well, I want to thank you for your time today and thank the audience that have joined in to listen. I think there's a lot of takeaways that we can learn, including myself. I want to get more into the mindfulness realm of things and start practicing those techniques, which I have not done thus far. So that's inspired me a lot to do so. So thank you for your time, and we will stay connected.
Yes, namaste. Thank you.
Thank you.